So welcome everybody to the fall AERC meeting. Good to have everybody here. We did our first in-person meeting last April at AEMA. That was the first in-person meeting we've done since 2020. And this is the first one we're doing back here since February 19th. So it's good to have everybody here today. I know we also got people online with us virtually. And my name is Grady Springer. I'm the Emergency Response Coordinator here for the Montgomery branch and have been part of the CERT since about 2011. So been at it for a little while, and I'll let Beth Woodfin introduce herself. She's been partnering with me, I guess, about the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And we'll do a quick around the room, just everybody introduce themselves and tell what they're
here because the mic. Hey, my name is Beth Woodfin. I'm the Sarah Title III coordinator, and I process all of the emergency planning and community right to know documents here for the entire state. I work with Grady here on the CERC, and it's good to be here. I'll be giving a presentation here in just a little bit. We've got several people tuning in from chat. Let me open them and just announce who we have here. For those of you in chat who didn't get the message earlier, please go ahead and list your name and the agency that you're with in the chat box, please. Online, we have Pam Cook with AEMA. We have John Lambert, Paul Smelly, Lee Blake, Blaney LeBlanc, Laura Patterson, Sandy Ebersole, and Jeremy Williams. And lastly, Fred Leslie. So again, if everyone could type your name and the agency you're with in the chat, then that would be great. Okay, Grady.
Oh, right. This is not advanced. So this is our quick agenda. Do some introductions and of course updates. So start over here. Tracy, go.
Caleb Williams. I'm the LPC program manager for Alabama Emergency Management Agency.
And Caleb, how long have you been with us? How long have you been doing the CERT part for AEMA?
Started in
April. Yes. So for those who don't know, Pam was our last person and Caleb has picked it up. He's the newest one coming in, served on the CERT. So good to have Caleb working with us.
Scott Hughes. I'm with the Field Operations Division here at AEL.
All right. Yes, we don't.
I read it.
All right. So first we'll have Caleb come up. You want to do your AEMA, this quick overview. And of course, that forwards it. Perfect.
All right. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. Like I said, my name is Caleb Williams. I do LPC and CERT for Alabama Emergency Management Agency. And like Grady said, I've only been doing CERT for a few months now, and unfortunately, I was sick during our last meeting, so it's good that I'm healthy and able to be at this one. Really only have two things. We want to hit a statewide update, and I'll break it down by division just so we kind of know where we're at throughout the state. First off, we have 36 active LEPCs. This includes this total number of how many we have includes Forge Manor Creek Indians. We have 19 inactive LEPCs and 13 LEPCs that I've classified as reorganizing. And these LEPCs are the counties that are currently either restructuring how they do things or restarting entirely. So counties that have been inactive and decided they're going to kick theirs off again. We're working with those 13 specifically to make sure that their bylaws, their leadership, make sure everything's in the right place. So that in a year from now, once they are really going, they don't have to go in and restructure again in 1 or 2 years. The inactive LEPCs we're continuing to talk to, trying to create some interest in getting an LEPC. Hasn't been very easy yet, but we're making some good progress. So now I'll start with the divisional breakdown. So Division A, we've got 2 active LEPCs. Those are Mobile and Baldwin. The reorganizing LEPCs right now are Washington County and Monroe County. Monroe actually just recently restarted there, so that's the one we're working with a lot down there. Division B, so we have 6 active LEPCs. They're a very active county. And a lot of their counties, due to Farley, are considered 50-mile counties, so they have a lot of work down there. Division C, again, 6 active counties, most of them being in the north, closer to Tuscaloosa. Division D, we have 7 active counties, and with Division D, that's a lot of your Lee County, your Montgomery County. That's typically where, in those areas, that's where a lot of your active counties are going to be. We're still working on a lot of the rural counties that get up closer in the area, close to Jacksonville, when Division G takes over. Up in Division E, which is the Northwest, we've got a lot more reorganizing counties. In fact, in the last division meeting 3 weeks ago, we created interest with these counties, and they announced that they were going to start reorganizing theirs. So we've got a lot of good work going on with that division, and we're going to keep working with them. Over Division F, which is in the northeastern portion, this is one of the most active divisions in the state, with Browns Ferry affecting a lot of their counties. They tend to have a lot of work, and with I-65 meeting up with heading into Tennessee, they have a lot of radiological and WIP shipments that come in and out of the division. So they have a lot of LPC activity up there. And then lastly, in Division G, which is your area around Gadsden, Jacksonville State, that area of the state, and as well as coming down into Jefferson County, it's the other most active division. We have 7 active LPs. 0 counties in Division G are inactive. We were able to get that accomplished just a couple months ago. So it's got a lot of great work going on. When I took over LEPC, Pam and I had gotten it to a point where it was a little under 50% in activity throughout the state, and we've got it close to 60% now. And we're working on getting up to 50 active LEPCs in the next year, and that'll put us at the highest number that I have been told has ever existed. So lots of good work. We'll see right here, this is my contact information. If anyone is in a county that either doesn't have one or is looking to really get some work done with theirs, that is my contact info. Please reach out to me, and I will come to your county and we'll meet and get things kicked off. Any questions?
And Caleb, for those that may not be familiar with what an LEPC is, can you just define that and give an example of what type of things they do?
Absolutely. So the LEPC stands for a Local Emergency Planning Committee. The responsibility of the LEPC is, and it's evolved since it was created, but originally it was designed to document and plan for disasters in the community that can be caused by a hazardous material that is housed at any facility in the county. That could be a public, a government facility. It could be a private corporation facility. It could even just be a farm a farmer has something on there. It has now evolved to move past not just hazardous materials, but it does focus on that. But now we're starting to look at also a lot of all hazard stuff, just so that everyone, there's more community engagement in how we're responding to these disasters. There's been I'd say there's been a big shortfall in community engagement and working with your private parties, working with your public entities, to talk with how you're going to coordinate a response. And the LEPC is just a good way to get everyone in one room and come together with your plan for how you're going to respond to these incidents. That way, when it happens, you're not jumbled around in your EOC trying to put together the plan as you're doing it. In coordination, we in Alabama, in coordination with ADEM, we work to coordinate LEPC and CERC activities, and in part that comes into the Tier 2 reports. Tier 2 reports, obviously, and Beth will touch on it a lot during her presentation. They just document that there is this hazardous material on site and documents what the qualities and characteristics of the substance are. And the LEPC, most LEPCs do a good job of enforcing these submissions. Newer ones are having to work on getting people to realize that we're not coming in to take away everything you're doing. We're just trying to document that it exists. So that's really what the LEPC does, is just creating awareness of what is in the community so we can better prepare for it. So any questions from anyone in the chat or here in person?
I can come check chat for you.
Perfect.
I got a quick question. I should check.
Yep.
There was at one point they were talking, and you may have heard this coming back around, you may not. There was some discussion of going to a districting format for LEPCs. Has there been any update on that? Any new information, or is that still kind of?
And you're talking about just kind of grouping multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah. So down in Division B, actually, I was talking with Jessica Schweiger, our divisional coordinator at AEMA, who's down there. They have a multi-county LEPC with Houston, Houston, Henry, and Geneva County. The three of them group together on LPC, mainly because their counties are small. It's tough to get a lot of activity in a small county, but we do have several multi-county LAPCs. Now, from a divisional standpoint, we have mentioned a divisional LAPC. Division G was the last time I talked about it when I met over with Elizabeth in some of her counties. But it didn't go super far, and I think one of the biggest issues was not that it couldn't be done. I think it was some counties preferred doing their own LAPC, but the idea has been floated. I like the idea. I think there are some divisions, especially C and even Northern A, that could really benefit from it just because they're very rural counties. You're not going to have a lot. More often than not, you won't be more than once a year. But grouping up into 3-4 counties, even a division, would increase how much you're able to get done and not feel like you're just checking off a requirement for the federal government.
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right, Caleb, we did not have any questions in chat at this time.
Okay.
Before we introduce Grady again to come up and do his segment, I did want to do a few housekeeping things. Be aware if you're up here speaking of these cords so you don't trip on them. If you need to use the restrooms, they're located out this door here to the left and to the right. There's also a water fountain. In the event of an emergency, there's 2 doors on either side. Do the one that's safest to use at that time for whatever emergency might arise. All right, Grady, take the
So this is an update for our emergency response program. This is statewide. This is what our responses, or at least our notifications, look like for the last 2 quarters. So as you can see, we've had a total of 224 release notifications come into the agency. What that means is those are just notifications of some releases that have happened statewide. Of those, we have responded to 50 of those. So what that means is essentially the agency will actually respond, most likely on site, to help oversee and mitigate whatever that particular release was. And this is a breakdown of what those numbers look like. This is pretty typical. Land notifications are always going to be our biggest category there. And the vast majority of that is going to be transportation type incidents, a lot of truck wrecks, some train derailments. But I will make note, we did have a few in that 201 notifications. A few of those were facilities, which are tier 2 facilities that house some type of hazardous material. They have that release of whatever that material is, and they report that the same. I will make note, we did not have any major spills needing EPA or Coast Guard assistance, no federal assistance. And that's fairly uncommon. We generally have at least a few of these within a 6-month period or a year, but we've been very fortunate this time. So no need for PERFAs or local government reimbursements, anything of that nature. We did have one ongoing incident with Moody Landfill, which I won't get into too much, but that is not an emergency response. That was more or less came into our land division. EPA has responded back on scene to that a few times, but again, that's kind of a different category. So that is it for our number. Are there numbers? A question about these numbers real quick? All right. I'll say one other thing about the air notifications. We only record the ones, we get a lot of notifications to the NRC that are some facility has had a release of ammonia, whatever it is. We typically don't record that in the emergency response program. We send that to our air division. There's not a whole lot of response you can do in that kind of situation unless it's an ongoing release. Now, if it's an ongoing release of chlorine that has impacted a community, some type of evacuation, we will then record that in the emergency response program numbers. And then the regional response team update, the last meeting convened in Baton Rouge in May. The takeaway here was that this was the first in-person RRT meeting since February of 2020. Of course, COVID stopped those meetings in person. Federal government became really sensitive to that. Obviously, they tried some virtual meetings. It really didn't work as well as they had hoped. So it was actually about a 1.5 year period where we did not have any meetings for the RRT. But in May, we had the first one back in person. This was actually a joint RRT between Region 6 and Region 4. And really what the lift here was just getting the RRT back established and functioning as it should be. As you can imagine, with a 3-year hiatus in person, there were a lot of new faces, not a lot of new people coming in to their first RRT meeting. So they're just trying to really get a grasp of what it is, and we wanted to help them do that. So it was a lot just getting those relationships back in place. Just so happens the next RT meeting will be coming up next week in Louisville, Kentucky. I will be attending that, and I expect that to look a lot more like the typical RRT meetings. It will only be Region 4, which is usually the case. Typically, each region has their own meeting, but with this one, with it being the first one in person, the one back in May, they want to do it a joint type meeting. But of course, we'll update what that meeting is, the RT for next week, with the next CERT meeting, and hopefully have some information on what some of the different topics they discuss, some of the presentations, do a lot of case studies at these. So that'll be something for the next meeting. Any questions regarding any of that? Am I still picking up good online? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Thank y'all.
So today I'm going to talk about the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know update. For those of you that have been here before, you hear us talk a lot about the Tier 2 hazardous chemical inventory data. This form is a collection of documents that the facilities must file if they have certain hazardous substances at a certain threshold at their site. They have to file the location of where those are stored, the quantity of those chemicals, and list the hazards associated with those chemicals. These forms are collected by the state, the local emergency planning committee, and their local fire department. These forms are due by March 1st for the preceding calendar year. So in 2021, the CERT had 1,837 that filed via Tier 2 Submit, which is the free program that the EPA offers. We had 1,920 that filed through ePlan, which is an online database that they can pay $25 a year to file through. And the University of Texas, Dallas keeps all of that information in their system, so that way they can easily file the next year. So in total for 2021, we had 3,757 Tier 2 facilities that filed. And then for 2022, the numbers were very similar. The total was 3,756, so we dropped by just one facility. And we saw a rise in ePlan usage for 2022. We had 2,036 that filed in ePlan this year. Now, one of the questions that I get a lot from both local emergency planning committees and Tier 2 facilities is there any EPCRA data retention requirements? And underneath the federal regs for the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, there actually is not a specified time frame. And so what that means is that each entity should determine their own data retention timeframes. However, I've had many conversations with the EPA, and for the State Emergency Response Commission, local emergency planning committees, and the local fire departments, they suggest that these entities retain all historic release follow-up notifications, the most current county emergency response plan, the most recent facility submitted safety data sheets, and the most recent submitted Tier 2 report. So as an LEPC and a fire department, you should have a plan in place for managing this data and keeping track of it. And on the facility side, the regulations also do not specify a time frame, and each facility should determine their own data time retention timeframes. The EPA says that because the statute of limitations is 5 years, to protect their own interests, facilities should keep on file the 5-year records, either electronic or paper, for their Tier 2 reports, the proof that that Tier 2 report was received by the CERC, the LEPC, and the fire department, and their safety data sheets. The CERC recommends, because of their recommendations about the responders' data timeframes, that the facility should also maintain historic Section 302 emergency release notifications. And, Section 302 is the extremely hazardous substance notifications, and the 304 emergency release notifications. We recommend you keep those just in case you should need them from the EPA. One of the things I'd like to talk about is the free training that's available through ADEM. The training can be tailored to the first responders' needs specifically. We haven't done a lot of industry training. We had one event when I first came on in around 2017. But we can do industry related training if there is enough interest. So if you feel you need training either as a first responder or as an industry rep, then please reach out to me and let me know, and we can discuss training availability. One of the classes that I do is a 4-hour E-Plan training course for first responders. It's called Chemical Inventories and E-Plan Training for First Responders. It's a 4-hour course with a quiz, a small tabletop exercise, and it's worth 0.5 CLEN CEUs. So if you have any interest in holding this event in your area, we'd be glad to coordinate that with you. The next one is going to be on November the 7th at Tuscaloosa County EMA. And if you want the registration information, I can email that to you after the event. I've compiled a list of resources that are available to you. Some of you may not be aware of the ADEM Sarah Title III webpage. We're not going to go through each of these, but you can take a picture and have those for your reference. One of interest is the National Association of Sarah Title III Program Officials, NASTPO. They have a section on their website for webinars. They've recorded a lot of free webinars, and they're available to you for free, even if you're not a member of the organization. Excuse me. Oh, my apologies. So they have those resources available even though you're not a member. They just had their annual. They have two meetings a year, their mid-year and their annual. And it is encouraged that you get involved with NASTPO if you can. Are there any questions for me about EPRA reporting, or training events for EPRA-related things? Yeah, Grady?
E-Plan training we do. I just want to specify that that's two different. We do a training specifically for EMA, LEPCs, first responders, and then a different one for industry because it's kind of two different ways of coming from.
Yeah, that's correct. The one that's worth CLEN CEUs is only for first responders. So if the industry felt they needed E-Plan training, we would do a separate event for that. All right, let me check chat and see if there's any questions in chat. I'm scrolling down. Did anybody in chat have any questions for me or for Grady or anyone who's spoken at this time? I don't see anything in chat, so we're going to move on. Next, we have Sharon Cunningham with the Alabama Farmers Cooperative. She's going to come up and talk to us about the co-op. And then online, we have Jeremy Williams. He's going to be joining in and assisting Sharon with the presentation. After that, we'll have our agency roundtable. So if you have any updates you'd like to provide for your agency, please make sure you bring those up. And then we'll have our closing comments. So Sharon, come on up, please. Thanks. And the mic picks up here, so if you'll kind of stay more
to there. Okay.
Yeah, don't hurt you too far out.
See, Jeremy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Make sure I've got my backup. I'll ask at least for the people here. Is everybody familiar with a farmer's co-op where you go and get your farm supplies, you go pick up your dog food, horse food, and then everybody's like, oh my goodness, they have chemicals. That's usually the thought of the process, right? You're sitting here going, yes. The Alabama Farmers Co-op has actually been around for quite a few years. It started up in the Tennessee Valley. Jeremy here is actually at one of the original stores that started this system. Right now we have grown. Alabama Farmers Co-op is actually in Tennessee, top part of Florida. We go down all the way down both sides of Alabama, north and south. I believe we've got 76 co-ops right now that's active, and then we've got 2 or 3 that's in name. So we're kind of just spread out. Little facts about farming. A single farm, and this is just a basic farm. This isn't a corporate industrial type farm. This is just your farms that you'll find around here. Can feed 166 people a year. 2%, and I've actually been told that's dropped a little in the past year, is actually farming in the U.S. And we supply just about every country in the world with some type of food. On top of that, we also help supply, when I say food, you still got to think about animal feed and fuel. Now, a lot of corn is designated to go to fuel. So only 2% of the people in America is actually feeding the world and taking care of animals and stuff right now. That's, yeah, that's almost a scary thought whenever you start thinking about, everybody talks about now, oh, you need to have a garden. You know, if you're like me, I could get like 3 or 4 peppers off my vine, and then I come back to look at them the next day, and the rabbits have enjoyed a whole lot more. 2%. Alabama is known for peanuts in the U.S. We can handle just about any crop as it is, but we excel in peanuts. As far as active farming acres, over 8 million. Livestock in Alabama is mainly chickens. So whenever you think about all the cows and everything that you see, just remember chicken houses, and especially now if you're talking about those grower houses, 6 to 12 weeks, you know, they've got a new crop of poultry that's going through there. And as far as milk, Alabama does about 32 million pounds of milk. And if you think about that, I think there's only 2 dairies, actual dairies now in Alabama. And we still can hit those numbers. Here's some facts. As you see, for commodities, but chicken is up there at the top. As far as AFC, our main office is up in Decatur. It's a small office right off of the port. It kind of helps all the store locations, all the locations that you'll actually go to buy the feed and the such that you may need. It's kind of centrally organized. If you ever call and you get a lady that goes, I will connect you, that's because most times whenever you just Google Farmers Co-op and stuff, it is send you to the 1-800 number, and she'll send you to your store or give you your store number and who you need to talk to about what type of feed or whatever you may need. So right now we're on 87 years and counting. As you can see, it started out as Tennessee Valley Farmers Cooperative. During the Depression, a bunch of the local farmers got together. There was a couple of them that had been together to get some buying power because things was coming in on the barge, things was coming in on the train, so they just got together. The 1940s is whenever they started really feeding the cattle and the hogs, getting them ready for market. In the 50s is whenever they decided, we need more than just feed, and they actually started bringing in equipment and other supplies. In 57, the grain market was added. That is, as one manager told me a while back, he says, well, it's kind of a no-brainer. He buys the seed from me, he grows it. He said, I sell him the fertilizer, and he sells me back his corn. So if you're a hunter, most time you'll have go pick up a bag of corn. For the squirrels, not for the deer, that's not legal. So the squirrels get to enjoy lots and lots of corn that's grown. Lots of squirrels. I mean, if you're at my house, it's the raccoons lately. I don't know. 1961, AFC started merchandising and actually became the stores that we know now, where you can go in and you can buy your hummingbird feeders and pick up your dog food and everything at one. You can kind of see our footprint. Like I said, we're in Tennessee, we're in Florida, kind of scattered throughout. On top of this, we have a couple of distribution centers and warehousing and such also. Our joint ventures, if you know your bunny plants, they are a part of us, or we are a part of them, however you would like to say that. It's like a 50-50 venture. We also have our own bank and supply for our farmers so that they can stay within our system and make sure that they can make things. We have a cotton gin there on the outside of Atmore, And if you are into catfish, South Fresh Aquaculture supplies most of the catfish throughout the country. We're with Cisco. A lot of our farms are over in Nemopolis, so they do the feed mill to actually make the catfish feed. And then they have services that actually help bring your catfish to the market. They used to have a processing plant in Greene County. We have now leased it out to they're building out to a different company in Mississippi that actually has owner ties with the farmers. So that's changed hands. We've got Ron. He's the VP of our cotton gin down at Atmore. Some more information on cotton. One bale can make all of that. Your jeans, pillowcases, one big bale of cotton. Feed is David. The main office is up in Decatur. He's on the river. We have also got a vent jointure now with Purina. So you'll see us out and about, or you'll see Purina in with us now. So we can also do regular feed and medicated feed. If you do medicated feed, of course, you have to go to a vet and get a prescription, just like if you're going to the pharmacy. You'd be surprised. There's actually, I ain't gonna say more regulations, but we get checked up on probably a whole lot more than your pharmacy does down the road, especially when you start talking about some of these $1 million horses and stuff like that we may be making feed for. Once again, South Fresh, Mark Lamb. They're based, main office is in Tuscaloosa, with the mill and everything being in Demopolis. Greenpoint, this has been in the last few years for us. We was Agra AFC, vent jointure, a joint venture, I'll get out in a second, that we had with Land O'Lakes and Winfield. Agra AFC has melted into Greenpoint Holdings. We are now into Texas, up in to like around South Carolina, North Carolina. They're out Georgia, Mississippi, and Florida with Greenpoint. They are the main supplier of our chemical and fertilizers, seed treatments and stuff like that. And Faithway. Faithway is our warehouse stuff. If you, that hummingbird feeder that I mentioned a minute ago and stuff, Faithway is the one that I go out and source that for our stores. Not only do they sell to our co-ops, but they do supply items to other type of farm supply companies. So if you go to your mom and pop place, you may see something that actually has a co-op logo, or it may be something that's actually manufactured in Tennessee. We have a gate plant that actually puts the wires together to make gates and pins and different tools and stuff that they use out on the farm. So that may actually come from Faithway. Am I talking too fast? I have a tendency to do that. So once again, Bunny Plants. I think everybody here knows a Bunny Plant. The Bunny Plants is a long-standing company, all family controlled up until a few years ago, when Scott's came in. Scott's, if you don't know, is the Miracle Grow and the items like that. So that's just helped Bunny be that much better. The research and development team with Scott's has came in, and that tiny little plant right there, you'll see these has went into the clear containers, so you can see the roots. That's something that I find fascinating. I'm the type that as soon as, like, the moms that you have everywhere now in those black pots and you can't see anything, I'm the type that gets them home and immediately repots them. And I know what root bound looks like because I know that they're only going to live a week or two with me. And you can also buy compostable pots now with Bunny. That's something that they've moved into. And they're all throughout into Canada and even overseas. Today at a AFC co-op, you can get fertilizer, chemicals, feed. We also even do equipment rental at a few of the places. Everything from, if you need a spreader to hook up to your tractor to throw out the fertilizer, the lime, or whatever you need, and you've got a big tractor, you can come load up a buggy, rent it from the co-op, and take it out to your farm and take it into the back 40. Deer farmers love us for this reason, because they have land that may not necessarily ever be touched except for during, late summer, this time of year, getting it ready. Other services that we do, we can actually go in with our equipment and spread nutrients as you may need them. We can go in and also spray and do burn downs, sampling. We also have a lot of stewardship programs. If like your community has a very active 4-H program and such, or even an ag program at the high schools, if you need anything like that, you can call them and they'll, come and let the kids explain stuff, or I'll have a meeting where we actually bring out from the actual industries and stuff like that for the equipment to come play on some equipment and learn more about what's going on in the farm. We also do cattle shows, support different 4-H activities for the cattle and the swine contest. Some of our most dangerous products is salt. Salt's in, what would you say, Jeremy? 50% of what we have?
Yes, 50% would be real close, if not more.
If not more. The reason salt is dangerous is, for one, salt is natural. Find it, you can breathe, it's in the air literally right now. If I know there's a spa near my house and it's advertising, come sit in our salt room, and they have crushed up salt in the air because it helps with skin, it helps with sinuses, it's everywhere. Salt is also very, 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 very dangerous. It will kill fish, it will kill grass, it will sterilize land. But salt is all natural. Your animals have to have salt. With that being said, it's in are y'all familiar with feed tubs? No, a feed tub. Okay, it's about 50-50 here. Jeremy's shaking their head.
Okay.
He can help me explain it. It's basically a great big bucket. You can get a little bit different variations, and I'm gonna say, think of solid molasses. If you go up to the Smokies and you get to watch them pull the taffy and pull the candy, and how the amber stuff all changes colors and it's sticky, and it's this real beautiful shade of different ambers and stuff. That's what a feed tub looks like. That feed tub has a ton of salt. So
it would weigh approximately 250, 300 pounds. For a visual in your head, it's about half of a 55-gallon drum.
And
of a solid type material.
yeah, and it's probably about yay round. And I know you can't see online, but it's it's a tub. Those things don't necessarily burn; they melt. I met with a fire department, some volunteer fire departments the other week, and I told them, I said, that is probably one of the most dangerous things you're going to come into contact with whenever you walk into our warehouse during a fire that's been hot, because those things are going to get hot, they're going to melt, they're going to bubble over, and now you're going to be stepping in it on the cement floor, and it's going to be just like that candy up at the Smokies. You get it on you, it's going to stay with you. So, like I said, between the byproduct it puts, because it doesn't burn, but once it gets hot, once it gets melty, it's going to put off a stink, and it's going to put off a dark color, because it is going to be salts. It's going to be, like I said, like that molasses, and it's going to stick with you. It's not necessarily that you're going to be breathing in something that's going to hurt you to kill you. You're just going to be breathing in a dark smoke that's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, because you're literally, if you get it on you, you're going to be carrying it with you everywhere. It's also, we have a lot of salt blocks for animals. Same thing. They're just going to kind of disintegrate in a fire, and they're going to put out this really thick type of smoke, because you have to get all the nutrients and the salt to stick together. All that's done by that same gooey stuff that whenever it starts melting is like anything that you burn in your kitchen. It's going to turn off and put off that black smoke. Liquid feed, once again, it doesn't burn, but it still has a lot of that same salt capability. Once you start putting water on it, especially high pressured water, first thing it's going to do is go find a ditch and want to run off property. As long as it's on our property, yeah, we have to spray a lot of stuff to keep the weeds down because of the fertilizer that we have. We don't care if our grass gets killed in the back lot because it's got a little leak. All it's going to do is go in, it's going to soak into the ground. That is what it is initially for. It is from the environment, and it's made to go back into the environment in one way or the other. It's not going to hurt anything over time unless it gets into your sewer system And then all those little amoebas that the sewer system love to have because they're really, really expensive is not going to like it. But for us, it's like I said, I ain't gonna say we go out there and we drink it. I've known a few people that says that they have in one fashion or another. But there's not much to it. We just don't want high pressure water hitting it, sending it down the road whenever it's going to be fine sitting there. Our fertilizers, now though this is going into dry product, we have urea, DAP, ammonium sulfate, and potash is active fertilizers. You'll see agricultural lime. This is the whitish, yellowish, big piles. If you ever drive by a store and you're like, oh, what is that sitting there in the back? It's lime. It helps pH levels out in the field. This is y'all's busy time of year for lime, isn't it, Jeremy?
It is. Our crew's running today.
Y'all got any questions about this?
I have a question about this. So do y'all carry the actual fertilizer and this is components, or are you saying y'all actually house these individual components that go into your fertilizer?
You will
Depending on
find them.
what's-
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Depending on what store, we have a few stores I'm gonna call handshake stores, and they may order a blend of, hey, we want the same thing that you're going to get out of that Miracle Grow bag at triple 13 for your tomatoes. They may only have a place to store that, but these stores like where Jeremy's farm, the majority carry each one of these, and you come in and we'll do a soil sample and it'll say, hey, you need a pound of that, a pound of this, and they'll actually blend it for you. Jeremy?
Yes. Depending on which store, usually it has something to do with the size of their agronomy that's done around that store as to what their particular storage capacity will be and blender setup for that matter. Like Sharon said, here we carry these individual ingredients and we will custom blend them for the customer. We think that's a better offering for the customer, and it helps us know what we have in each bin and what the concerns are with those.
Did that answer? Okay. Just like any other type of bin, it's in think of a big garage, multi-bay garage type system, and they just have a truck come back and it's augured or somehow or another. It's either augured from the front or depending on the system may actually be brought in from the top and come over, and it just fills up the bins.
So would you have to, do you keep enough on hand that it meets that reporting requirement?
Yes.
So
Anything over 10,000 pounds. And so literally like the buggy I talked about earlier from the farmer comes and get it. So these smallest buggies, we might have some 2 tons, but the smallest is going to be a 3-ton buggy. Now that's going to be a mixture of all these, but usually the farmer's going to leave with at least 3 tons of product. So yes.
additionally, you're having to make that report for each one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bless you. You have any questions about what they are or anything like that? Because in general, for you, they're all going to work the same. And it's kind of like with the liquid feed. Let it burn. I know people, and I've had firemen tell, no, we can't do that. We've been told we can't. No, protect around the building. We have power coming into it because, like you said, the blender, we actually have those big, think of your margarita blenders. It's going to do the same thing. Protect the area. But once you start putting, these all melt with water. And once you start directing high pressure water to these, and then they get out into the environment, like I said, our land is going to be fine. It'll give it away to leach. It's a natural, it belongs into the soil to make it balanced. Our land can handle it. But if it gets into your sewer system down the road for the ones that are in town, once again, our little amoebas are going to go, oh my goodness, this ain't what I'm used to. For us, I think I have a slide that says that line. Water is our enemy. This stuff just kind of melts and crystallizes. Once again, it's going to put off a bad stink. It's going to put off some funny colors because just depending on like any other mineral, colors and stuff is going to draw a crowd because it is going to smoke a lot. But as long as it stays there, it's just going to smolder and smolder. You take a bucket to a skid steer bucket, you drag it out, just like the same thing with corn. The only way it's going to go out is just by letting it just kind of burn. It's going to melt off and just stay on top of everything. Once we start hitting it with water and it starts wanting to melt and then it's going to start wanting to run, that's when the real issues start. And it's about 50-50 of how, when I say enclosed, some of these buildings that hold this stuff is old concrete bunkers with multi-walls and in and out chambers. And then others are just kind of, like I said, with that 3-bay garage kind of system, they only keep, they might only keep 10 tons of this and 20 tons of this. And it's just kind of an open door system and it's in the back corner. So if something does happen, it's away from the parking lot. It's away from people. It's away from this. And it's just this way it's handled.
Well, so then I kind of have to lead in and ask you, and not to grill you.
No, that's when I got Jeremy on here.
So let's say that your facility's some portions on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Fire department shows up. Is your recommendation to them to not put it in water and just let it burn? But then the second part of that question is there some inherent risk that you may see a situation where you get some igniting and explosion with such as like the West Fertilizer?
No, sir. About the most dangerous thing that we have around our fertilizer is going to be our skid steers or bucket lifts, such like that. That is one thing. Jeremy can attest to this. We don't mix stuff. Now you may go out there at the blender. We have stuff that we may mix with the fertilizer to keep the dust down and stuff, but none of that is the explosive types. You don't keep a thing of propane. You don't keep your 500 gallon of gas right there at that. And that's why I said you can put it all around because we do have power coming into the system. We can put it around. We just even on top of the building, if the bay doors are closed, like I said, some of these are true concrete bunkers. You can put water on top and it's not going to mix. It's directing the water straight into the bin where it's going to start melting and then coming out is where it becomes the issue. Because it's like I said, once it gets hot, it kind of goes into a melt. It's going to smolder. You can take a lighter, even ammonium nitrate. I know everybody's like, ooh, ammonium nitrate, it blows up. No, ammonium nitrate doesn't blow up just by sitting out on the ground. You have to compress it. It has to have a liquid. It has to have a cap. You can go stick a lighter to a cigarette on it and it's not going to just explode. These chemicals are even less than any of that. And like I said, that's one reason why they stay in open bins is so that there is no compression. There is no type of, besides it just summertime heat getting to it and it being, it getting hard where maybe something in a corner, it's all just powder, just granule stuff. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had a question I was actually going to ask you later, but you kind of touched on it just a minute ago. Soil sampling.
Yes, sir.
So as a homeowner, I can, collect a sample of my soil and bring it to you all, and y'all give me what recommendations for fertilizer mixture.
Yes, sir. Jeremy.
Yes. Take the top 4 to 6 inches of dirt from several different places in the area you're wanting to fertilize. Mix it all together in a bucket and bring in about 1 pound of that sample. It's roughly a sandwich bag. If you got, most everybody has a Ziploc bag in their house. Just bring that 1 pound. You can take over how many samples you want. But for 1 pound of dirt for each sample. Now, depending on the store location, but I'm not aware of any in our system that are actually doing the extraction methods at the store. More than likely, it's going to be shipped off to Auburn or Waters Laboratory in Georgia or Waypoint in Kentucky. Some of these soil labs that will do the extraction process and then send the results back to your local co-op who can make recommendations based off of that.
A general turnaround time on getting the results back?
Typically 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
A lot of that depends on the time of year and
Is there a
Right.
certain time of year better than others to do the sampling?
Agronomically, we typically want to do that in the fall, and that's primarily for your agricultural line, to give it an opportunity, if you need any, to give it an opportunity to activate and correct your soil pH before the next growing season.
if you're actually looking to grow. They have a lot of I'm gonna say like the Sister Mary gardeners. My tomatoes is no longer growing here. That they'll come in the middle of spring. Not too much they can do to help you right then once everything's been done and planted and such. Herbicides. Herbicides and growth regulators. I will throw that in there. Jeremy got me on that one. Bold D is a growth regulator. That is a big distinction in the manufacturing company. EPA is going to say this is a pesticide. It kills a green stem. The weed is a pest. That is how the EPA looks at it. I know I've had many conversations. I call everything a pesticide just because I'm the one that for the co-ops that deals with the EPA stuff. Go ahead. No, okay. But a herbicide is going to be killing that weed. Now there's different levels. Some pesticides go, some herbicides go, oh, this is green, it must be gone. And then we have some herbicides that only like leafy green stuff, like, oh, they're your vegan that, that's your vegetarian that's like, I don't like collards, but I really like kale, and this is all I'm going to get to. Just the same as any other chemical. It works better on one thing than it could the other. I'm sure Jeremy really loves me saying that, vegan and vegetarian, describing his. The good thing about these, once again, they're not going to burn. For y'all for coming in for emergency stuff, this is 99.9% of the time it's liquid. If you're ever worrying about which is the more dangerous one, there is certain chemicals that you do have to go through the state. You have to take a class and a test, and they'll give you a little piece of paper saying, okay, you are more knowledgeable than this other person, and you can buy such and such chemical that has to be mixed. If you ever walk into a store, to the front store where the registers are, where the people are, where you buy, your feed and stuff, those are the same chemicals that's going to be sold at Walmart and Lowe's. If you're looking for the stuff that actually takes that piece of paper that's gave to you by the state, those are kept in the back or kept in a completely different warehouse, depending on what it is and where you're at. Fungicides, kind of, self-explanatory. If you have anything growing that you want to get rid of the spores and stuff. Here is your pesticide. If you don't know, sarin gas is a pesticide. And you'll see over here that organic isn't necessarily safe. All these are considered organic chemicals. This used to be what your pesticides and stuff was made from. This used to be what they put in the planes and just dumped over everywhere, over the schools, over the fields, everywhere. The botulism toxin, if you keep up with your LD50s, I believe it is like 0.780.1 atrazine, which is a chemical right now that the EPA is trying to remove, has an LD50 of, I think it's about 0.03. One little thing of botulism is going to wipe out everybody in this room, but atrazine that the government is saying is dangerous right now. You can sit here and drink half the jug and you may have an upset stomach. Pesticides and insecticides, they have soft, which is the non-persistent. Like I said, if you're think of it kind of like turning up your antifreeze that's in the jug. I might be able to turn it up. I'm gonna drink that bitter stuff and might have an upset stomach tomorrow. You might turn it up and have to go to the hospital and get seen by the doctor. That's your soft pesticides. Then you have an actual pesticide, and those kind of stick around. They can kill insects, depending on what it is. Rodents, nothing here is going to kill a rodent. To talk about the difference, you said you're from the Department of Transportation. The Roundup Cornerstone, y'all don't care about. We can literally load up a flatbed with as many totes of it as we want and haul it down the road. That Bidrin 8, one case requires hazmat license. And when I say a case of it, what is that, about 2 pounds, Jeremy?
Be 4 liquid gallons, one case would.
Okay.
And usually, over a gallon is considered hazmat.
So that shows you, and they're the same item. Salts, we got the feed grade tubs, the salt blocked, bagged. A lot of the co-ops have gotten into pool sampling. So if you've got that pool and you want to have it tested, a lot of the co-ops do that, especially the ones that's in city. A lot of them have it over there where they can actually test your pool water. If you're having some major trouble, they might be able to send it off for you. Not every co-op offers the pool chemicals, though. And like I said, the feed salts is where, for us, is the most is where we come into a lot of the dangers. It doesn't burn, but it'll pop and it smolders and it can create a lot of smoke, and if it ever gets going on the property, like I said, it can kill fish, it can kill grass, it can do usually more damage than the majority of our chemicals can. Symptom of pesticide poisoning. That's me most Mondays. You can be tired, dizzy, have a headache, excessive sweats. This is the signs.
Let me ask you about one specific one is, because we actually a while back had a response to this. It was a farmer using Timic. Is that still available on the market? I know it's a very potent.
Like Timic.
Timic, yeah.
So to my knowledge, it is still available. It's very limited.
Yes.
We do not carry it here. It is only available in lock and load type containers, where it is in an effort to reduce human contact. So that being said, you can't actually open the container and grab the product. It's got a closed mechanism that interacts with the planter itself. Yeah, not widely used anymore, to my knowledge, anyway.
Now, you said where a farmer had an issue with it. Had he tried cutting into because that was where my mind went first. Was he tried cutting into to bypass the protection?
This was honestly, it's probably a decade now thinking about it. It's way back, but it was a situation where they never identified who, but someone somehow dropped a pile of some unknown substance, and it wasn't a big pile. It was a couple of handfuls on the side of the road by somebody's front yard.
You're talking about the old style. That's actually legal.
Is that legal?
It had a 7-generation kill, I believe.
Well,
what they have out now is a different formulation. Yeah, the EPA, if it was a decade more ago, that particular formulation is not available.
I mean, we've had several different pesticide responses over the years. I don't understand it because it was just, such a potent, I mean.
And it got to human or just the animals?
No, I got someone that went out there and kind of kicked their foot through it and walked through the house and just the dust on their foot made
Blue and purple?
everybody sick and ended up having to, have an industrial hygienist come in and clear the car, the house. It was, excavating a small pile of it was even an ordeal. It was just a really nasty substance.
Like that was actually banned quite a few years in that type of formulation. Quite a few deaths, but people loved it because you can mix it with a little hamburger meat and throw it out, and it killed the coyote. It killed everything because it would kill the coyote, then it would kill the buzzard, then it would come whatever ate the buzzard, and then it would kill something else, and then it would kill the rat, and then the rat would be ate on, and yeah, I believe it was a 6-7 generation kill. Risk depends on the pesticide, like some neurological cancer is a lot of people cancer, the Parkinson's and such is what a lot, and actually I don't want to say the risk of it is low, but you'd have to think back to what like people playing with the Roundup said. Oh, I worked at the golf course and we would run through it and spray each other out in the field and wasn't wearing anything. And when you take baths and chemicals, yes, over time things can probably happen if you're using it correctly, and it has a different effect. We do all follow work protection standard, the WPS, from our handlers to our applicators. Kind of like what I brought up earlier with the sarin and the ricin. If you're just kind of wondering about natural and man-made, the guys like laughing at me whenever I bring stuff like this up, but an apple seed is actually more toxic than most of our chemicals. I know you warned me, and I'm going to do it. I can't stand still, like I said. I know Jeremy loves the energy drinks, and I've gotten onto them a lot over the years, especially during the summer. We have more of our guys end up going to the doctor because of being sick and stuff like that. And they get there and yes, they're dehydrated, they're this, they're that. And it's because they've had 3 Monsters and a pot of coffee and not actually had any water and stuff. But the first thing we have to do is, well, if you was in the field, no, we was just out there loading. We hadn't even touched anything yet. Well, it's probably the 3-4 Monsters and the no water. Here's just some fun stuff. This is what every year we have a training with our guys that actually handle the chemicals, not necessarily the ones that are just loading into the back of a car, but for the men that are actually out there handling the chemicals. Like I said, this is the LD rating. 1, 2, 3. I suppose on my zeros for botulism. And here you can see table salt and 2,4-D paraquats. Nicotine is actually more deadly. And here's our famous Roundup, our glyphosate. And here's the apple cider vinegar that everybody loves to take to help. It's natural. You're laughing, so that means you must take it. You don't? Okay. And then you'll see, table salt and aspirin. And then my personal favorite is caffeine. I had Jeremy actually bring me a bottle of atrazine at our summer meeting. And I could have 13 average cups of atrazine compared to my large cup of coffee that I start my day off whenever I actually got it measured out. It was right under 13. Once again. And for here, number of deaths per year is under 100 for pesticides, smoking, alcohol, handguns, motorcycles is another personal favorite of mine. Your x-rays at the doctors. is more dangerous than if you're using a chemical as you've been instructed to use by the manufacturer and the companies. This is wearing gloves. That is staying, not sticking your head over the tub, going, is it empty? Letting it vent. Making sure when you're hooking up hoses, you're doing large scale stuff. Let's turn off the pump before we try yanking on hoses and such.
I noticed you guys plastic football there now. Was that done down in Baton Rouge or?
I'm sure it's an SEC thing, but. And these are from 2021 is where most of these numbers came from. Are any of y'all familiar with that AERC? It's a company that pays a lot of campaign contributions. They are not a regulatory authority. They don't have they hire people to say what they want to be said. They're the ones that will tell you that coffee and water in California causes cancer. That by putting gas in your car, you're going to die. But however, they are part of the WHO, the World Health Organization, or they have a say in that. The EPA in 2017, this is back glyphosate, is not likely to be carcinogenic to humans. Canada said the same thing the year before. However, that group is the one that put out there saying that AERC is the one that came out there saying, "Ooh, glyphosate's going to kill us because we don't want pesticides." They would want to go back to the natural formats, and if you remember earlier, that was arsenic and ricin and such. So the EPA finally got on there and started doing their studies, and this is separate from any of the court cases. Glyphosate's undergone many screenings and endocrine studies, and they can't make it cause cancer. So if you're worried about your Roundup or your Cornerstone or any of your types of stuff that you may buy, the Great Value brand, as long as you're using it correctly as intended, you're not spraying it on you, you're washing your hands, you're not applying your chapstick and then freshening your makeup and hair with it and stuff, you should be okay. Let's see. Groups that we are involved with is the Fertilizer Institute. They're out of Washington on Capitol Hill. We are also involved in a program that's called RA. Because I'm very simple, I don't like saying responsible ag. This is an auditing program. We do short yearly auditing and then large every 3 years, where a board certified auditor comes in and reviews just general items. Things like the tier 2s are reviewed, not necessarily for what's in them, but are they being filed? Are there any EHSs on them? I can proudly say that none of our locations actually carry any EHSs. So let's see. The reports we follow is tier 2. Everybody has salt at their location. Like I said, I do tend to group salt. I don't necessarily my feed salt, my tub salt, and all that type of salt. I just kind of group it into one because, like I said, once it starts getting hot and it starts melting, it's all going to produce the same. A few of the locations may have stormwater. Either it's where they are or just incidences from many years ago. A few of them we have bought from different chemical. Louisiana Drum Company, we actually have the property of one of their wonderful sites from many years ago, and it's got monitoring wells that I love. And we also have SDSs and label books. For Jeremy, that's on there right now. I'm holding up now it's a green book, the applicator manual. This is basically the label off of a chemical. Is that the best way to describe it, Jeremy?
Yes, I would say so.
So, and this doesn't have every single chemical out there. Because it may have like Cornerstone and Roundup for the new version, but if you've got some kind of what you said that the farmer had that is, been sitting in his barn for 500 years, that's no longer a active sale, they've redone the formulation. It's probably not going to be in here, but whatever replaced it should be. And it doesn't carry the ones that we have anyway. It doesn't carry necessarily the generic. Because as you know, I'll go back to like I said about Walmart, they're great value brand. If the brand name sells great this year, they're going to have their own formulation, but as long as you know what your active ingredient is, here is your, some label books. And then here's the kind of the same premise. It doesn't have every ag chemical known to man, but it's got all the main ones. Like, so you say Roundup, you're going to find Roundup in here. So for most glyphosates, you just look and, okay, they're all 40%, somewhere around that 40%. And this is a 40%, or you can go find it 20%. And we can go from there. As far as our printed books, most co-ops have these available for any of your LEPCs. Now, it's always going to be last year's. I don't know how it should. Whenever they get printed, it's whatever chemicals is on the market for this year will show up next year into our for our bound stuff. So they're always going to be a year behind. But we've always got co-ops that have 2 or 3 of these sitting around. Jeremy, you've probably got 50 sitting around different SDSs. Yeah. So
We do.
so if you're ever wondering, like I said, it may not be every generic, but if you're ever wondering kind of what's out there and what's hot, you have to walk into your local co-op and tell them, hey, I'm with ADM, or hey, I'm the volunteer fire department. I'm with the fire department. Can y'all help me out? We will gladly give you one of these. Some stores do not carry the label booklet just because if they don't have the equipment to go apply stuff, they don't really need it. It's on the drug itself, and that's where they're concerned at. But everybody should have these. If y'all ever are kind of wondering, I've got 16, 17 of these available for you if anybody wants to have them.
I didn't discuss this with Sharon, but there are 2 websites. There's pretty well everybody's got service now throughout throughout the state and the nation and everything. But CDMS.net has a label search that is widely used. Now, I actually prefer agrian.com. They have a label search. And then they actually have a mobile app that you can use on your phone that's intuitive. It's easily used, and a lot of this information is easily accessible through those.
So as long as you got service, and that will actually come up in our next story.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Of why over time the apps and stuff is going to be handy.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, Sharon,
Mhm.
email me the site that you just, so we can send those out in a minute.
That'd be fun. And like I said a minute ago, water is the enemy of the co-op. Our stuff is made to be mixed with water. It's made to go back into the environment. It's made to be out there. Once you start hitting it with high pressure water, it does what it does. It's going to melt, it's disintegrate, and it's going to start spreading. The feed and grain products, they smolder. We have some places have bins full of grain, corn and stuff like that. Others have them in the actual silos that you'll see. The only way to put out a grain fire is by cutting the side of it open and dragging it out. Water is not going to put that out. It's just going to steam. And then you could, if I say explosion, it's more of a blavy type deal. It's just that steam's going to build up inside those metal silos, and that's going to be your danger, not letting it smolder. You just make a triangle cut, bend it down, and let it start flowing out and burn on the ground, and then it'll be done. If it's something around like I said, the fertilizer chemical house, like, the lift caught on fire. I know we had one a couple of years ago. That evidently some leaves had gotten down into the engine and it just caused like a little back spark. They backed it up, hit it with the fire extinguisher. The lift was put back in service an hour later whenever everything started right back up. Those are the kind of fires that okay, we dealt with that. I'm talking like said directing fire truck hoses into the bins and stuff is where our dangers come in at. Please protect the people. Whenever I'm saying don't put water into fertilizer and chemical bins, please protect people. Most of our locations, we don't have signals necessarily to go off. Most of our locations, Jeremy's at one of the larger locations and they're scattered out over several acres, but I guarantee you if one person starts running, they're going to go, oh, because we don't run. We don't run. We do have different ways of getting in contact with everybody. And people will be noticed if they're missing. We work in groups and everything we do. About the only time anybody's by themselves if they're in the cab of a truck somewhere, tractor. A few sites have critters. Alberta has a pig. When I say a pig, I mean a pig. It is a pig. It's 300 pounds. Can't remember its name right now. Jeremy may know, but anyway, she likes her toenails painted pink more than blue. They have told me that. They actually have different stuff on Saturdays. Kids will actually come down and have birthday parties with her. The thing about this pig is that the place that she wants to generally lay is up on the concrete. She's 300 pounds. She's down south. It gets hot. She's a pig. She likes to lay on the concrete. The best two spots that's the best shaded is right there at the fire department connection hookup. As I've told them, and I don't mean this rude, I am not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I like bacon. If it comes down to getting to the water supply and having bacon, please let's do that. That is the way it is at all co-ops. Several co-ops have tons and tons and tons of cats. They're out the property. People drop them off, and then they're like any other location, warehouse and stuff. Cats just seem to accumulate. A few have dogs that just stay out the back. Some of the guys feed them. Sometimes they just find other stuff to eat, or they'll go bust a bag. And if there is an animal that is causing trouble on the site, like I said, I love my animals. I believe animals should be protected and taken care of, but an animal that may be on the site is not worth risking a person's life or being able to get to where y'all need to get to. And I do have my phone. It's got my notes about for Chris.
While I'm looking, I have another question.
Okay.
So does a co-op have they ever had, or do they have any mechanism for disposal of, say, old pesticides, herbicides, anything that, you know, you're forever finding these old farming chemicals in a barn or something like that?
For farmers or for us? Kind of, because you're going to get the same answer to a point.
Yeah. So let me either, because a lot of
Okay.
times we will get, we get calls coming to the agency, hey, my grandfather passed away, we're cleaning out his barn and we have these bags of labeled or unlabeled farm pesticides. What do we do with it?
Clean Pesticide Day, Baldwin County is going to be November the 7th, and they're also having it in Macon County this year. It's odd that we do 2 years. Last year got canceled.
So
that is a state organized program through the pesticide stewardship for cleanup. And for farmers, if you bring in less than 1,000 pounds, it's completely free. I think the state gets up to 50,000 pounds that they get to just load up at each location.
So it would be very helpful for us
Mhm.
if we could get a list of when those each year or just whenever they're planned. Because we don't mind telling them, hey, if you will hold on to this material, just so you know where it is, it's been there for 20 years, if you can leave it there for another couple months, this is when they'll be having this.
Daniel Sheffield is my contact through the Alabama Ag Department. Then you can contact your county extension office. And like I said, there's a South Central, which is usually over towards Auburn. and then north, which is Athens, Florence way, and they rotate each year. Like I said, last year we ended up not having one. It was something that went on. So this year we're having two. And if you go to the Alabama Department of Ag and Pesticide Clean Day or Amnesty Clean Day,
And that,
Jeremy may be able to help. There is actually a website that you can go in there and you send them your email. And because they have to arrange it through 100 different organizations and people. So it literally comes out, because I know I start bugging him around the beginning of summer. And he literally just sent me a thing about 2 weeks ago that said, hey, somewhere in the first or second week of November, they're going to do it. Contact your local extension agency. And I got a hold of them last 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they finally got back with me last week and said, hey, Baldwin is the 7th. And so that's kind of how it works. Hey, this is coming up here in like the next 2 weeks. You going to be ready? Yes. And so then I send it out to all of them. Mm-hmm. So that's for all farmers, no matter what it is, no matter what condition the bottle is in, if you know what it is or not. And if you contact them, if you've got a bunch of stuff, you can contact them. And I know I've helped a few farmers, some of our board members and stuff, for their families been members, and like, Grandpa had this. And we don't really know if this is what this still is, because Grandpa probably mixed it with 20 other things back in 50 years, but it's been sitting in the barn and now it's yellow. So I can actually contact them and they'll send me overpacked drums and stuff like that so that I can help them get it into a vehicle to get it there. And if you have large amounts, I know at one site up north 2 or 3 years ago, we actually had a truck go by and we picked up at the location because they just had a lot of just different stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's us, like we have stuff, like right now, I've got some mixed saline, and you're like, well, what's, okay, but I have no clue what it is. So it's actually went through safety clean and it's being T-clipped right now. Because I have no clue actually what is in that 10-gallon bucket. It's just a 10-gallon bucket. So I'm going through safety clean. The gentleman that's over that program, and then it's the Department of Ag. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not sure what day the Macon County one is. I just know it's within that first same week or so of November. And I hadn't heard back from their county yet. And like I said, no questions asked what it is to show up with. They don't take motor oil, fuel, and stuff like that, but any chemical.
all right.
Let me check chat and see if anybody had any questions for you on chat.
Our best checking chat. Sharon, how many people within the co-op deal with, I guess, regulatory type matters, EPA, emergency response type?
Which
Issues?
Which level? And I know that's outside, but if you're talking about like the ones that show up for this kind of stuff, it's me. If you're talking like the county shows up or fire department shows up, then it's handled at each office.
Each
Mm-hmm.
location has, I guess, at least one designated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jeremy will tell you that it's not him, but he's the one.
It's definitely not me.
Hey guys, did anyone in chat have any questions for Jeremy or Sharon?
Come on, ask Jeremy a question.
Oh, come on now.
All right, well, thank you both so much for coming. Just to reiterate for the LEPCs on the call, you can request those safety data sheet booklets that have all the SDSs that pertain to the ag and things you might run into. Sharon is also her and I have talked many a time. She's a very good resource for getting you in touch with the people that you need if it involves ag or chemicals relating to ag. So we're going to transition now into our agency roundtable.
You want to talk about Chris's thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Chris was going to be on the call, but he was sick.
He has not said that he's been released from the doctor's office yet.
And he was going to talk about the
A fire
an
that happened
incident.
an incident that happened.
Okay, they're gonna share about an incident that happened when they put water on a fire, right?
This happened in November 2012. So it's been a day or two ago. And it was at a local co-op that happens to be, I don't want to say in downtown, but it's in a very busy area of Blount County, Aniana, if you're familiar with Aniana. It's on the main highway there. It kind of got out of control very, very quickly because it was it was one of those days. The fire chief that shot there, that had worked there, the marshal, was on vacation. The guy taking his place had never really been on site besides walking in. Then there's a volunteer fire department just down the road that showed up also because it's the volunteer fire department and hey, it's here in town. What can we do? And then plus with it being in the middle of town on Highway 231 or just right there at Highway 231, news spreads quickly. So everybody showed up. It was 10:30, 10:45 in the morning. A fire started in a small shop building. And when I say that's kind of like that West Texas that you heard of, it was kind of the same thing. It's where they kept the lawnmowers, those kind of things. It was not at where the chemicals and items were stored, but it was just one of those little kind of stand-up shed buildings that is next to where the chemicals and everything was at. Fire department showed up. The first thing they did was go, "What have you got in there?" And a volunteer fire department that worked for a different co-op that carried different chemicals said, "My co-op carries methyl bromide in compressed cylinders. I know that they have to because we're only 6-7 minutes down the road." Well, and he had a right for an assumption because we had compressed cylinders sitting all over the place. But ours was pit chlor. If you know what pit chlor is, it's not an explosive gas. You actually inject it into the soil. Chandler Mountain up there where all your tomatoes are grown, they actually have to tarp it where they put it. They'll put plastic down on the ground to hold the pit chlor gas into the soil for a couple of days to help it. It is not explosive. I ain't gonna say you can't make a tank explode. It's a compressed cylinder, but the gas itself is not explosive. But the volunteer fire department that worked at a different location said those have to be the methyl bromide containers. First thing they go is, it's explosive gas. It's going to wipe out the community. So they started applying water on it. Their thought was to keep it cool. Well, what they did was because whenever I say, like I said, this was in 2012, it was those little tin shed buildings, and it was just kind of like a 3-wall building. As soon as they started directing high pressure water, they started knocking all these compressed cylinders over. These had gotten warm. What happens whenever you knock a compressed gas cylinder over? They become little missiles because they went from being nice and hot but contained, maybe a little off-putting. I ain't gonna say something didn't have a seal that off-putted, but they was all sitting up and halfway contained. As soon as they got knocked over with the high pressure water, they started exploding because now they had suddenly cold water. And when I say they exploded, the top seals just came off of these pit chlors. Once again, the gas that was escaping was still a non-explosive, non-flammable type of gas. But the cylinder themselves, that's the size of that table right there, now became little missiles, and everybody started reporting co-op is exploding. Literally, the news article came out, the one I've got pulled up right now. I heard explosions. It was pops. I could hear them 20 miles away. I don't know if that was it, and because there's pictures of like showing up behind the church, the black smoke coming out, and you can see it's a nice little funnel, and they made it sound like it burned down half the town, and there probably the whole smoke cloud was probably about the size of that table too, but it was a nice black smoke that was coming up. Because everybody that knew what was going on, the store manager was not there. He was actually off that day. The fire department, I can't remember if it was the chief, the marshal, whoever had been on site that knew everything was going on. He wasn't there. Another gentleman wasn't there. So they ended up calling in the guard because toxic gases was about to be released in town. they wouldn't let the manager, whenever he got there, he got the phone calls and he showed up in the middle of it. Well, they wouldn't let him go on site to go pull his data, even though you're talking about 5-6 acres away was where his office actually is. Because like I said, we took these kind of buildings in the back, not where you just walk up to them. And they said, no, you will be arrested if you step foot on that property. 2012, there was electronic record keeping, but not the type that you can just pull up in that app. And that was fine. Like I said, when Jeremy said that, now they can call me if they can't get service, and I can have it sent to whoever, whenever it takes. If I'm where I can get service, it takes me about 2 to 3 minutes to pull up whatever you need. But they had threatened to arrest him because nobody there knew each other, because they had kept it down to only this top person had talked to this top person that had talked to this top person. And because the volunteer fire department chief worked at a different store, and he said that that was what he knew he had, they went on that assumption. Well, after a whole day and a whole night, they finally went in there and saw that the cylinders that was there was mostly empty, because it was November. We was literally waiting on them to be picked back up by the company that takes them back and refurbishes, refills, and then they show back up at the top of spring. So there was a lot of miscommunication. Like I said, a couple of weeks ago, over this kind of September is my kind of month to do any of my outreach programs. I've probably worked with about a dozen fire departments, volunteer fire departments. I am big on that, even if your LEPCs want to come out. Like I said, I've even brought out high school ag shop departments and such. I believe in letting you know what we've got, because there ain't nothing there that's going to be hidden. And I might tell you not to look in that back corner because there's enough spider webs, or there's a raccoon that's probably going to come get you, and that is very likely. But there is nothing there that we have to hide. Y'all need to know what we've got. Like I said earlier in the thing, there is nothing there that we have that's an acute type of injury. We do have stuff that if you get into it, yes, it can hurt you. We carry corrosives and we carry acids. I know we have some cities, some towns that on our NFPA diamonds does not want us to put that we have corrosives. Too many meth heads. They said they don't want to, they don't want the person realizing. Then we have others that I'll put that "don't add water to me" sticker on it. And they're like, oh no, that's against the law, because nothing, you don't have stuff that can't have water added to it. You can't do that. So I can't say that I have a formulation about how I do it. I kind of just leave it up to the locals whenever we do updates like that. But I do encourage everybody to stop by your local co-op, or you can holler at me and I'll meet you. Jeremy can attest to, I love going out and meeting people and bringing donuts and sodas and stuff like that. That's what I'm here for, because they have the actual running of the stores. Kind of like what you said, I'm that go-between. So you can always holler at me, or you can just stop by your local co-op and explain who you are and why you're there. And like, especially for fire departments and such, holler at me, and I've got a piece of paper for you to sign that says, hey, yeah, you walked through and you understand that this may change with the season. Right now, we're really low because, let's face it, nobody's buying chemicals right now to grow those tomatoes. You give us a January, February, our warehouse is going to be full. So, you sign an agreement saying, that we may be empty today and pack beyond anything you can imagine come February, but we invite you to come out and look, so we don't have those misunderstandings, where we don't have the news reports of, oh, we have explosions going off, or managers being arrested, trying to get to the SDSs in his building, in his office, which is where SDSs are stored, which is one reason I said. And on these books right here, this is one of the websites that CDMS is one of the websites that he talked about. Like, it's more of a website program, where the other one is got a app off to the side. And like I said, there's a lot of my stuff that I do generically, because they may change a little bit something, or Walmart may come out with something and we end up getting that in the store. But if it's a glyphosate 40 to 43%, we can still get it figured out for you. Like I said, that's just a communication thing. All right.
Thank you. Vice Chairman.
Okay, I've got a comment here from chat that says, not a question, but I would ask that you encourage the local ag facilities to participate in the local LEPC. Okay.
I was going to add on to that. That is really, I understand, that's really the whole point of the LEPC is that you don't want to be trying to make those decisions and figure out what you got on site and how to handle it. It's actually burning or rocketing off or whatever, you know, that is the entire point of the LEPC. So you have those relationships in place beforehand. And the first responders understand what that facility is before it's on fire and they're trying to get to it. So it's a good statement.
Okay. For the agency roundtable, we've got, all of the different agencies here. I know we've got ALDOT and we've got, I think, the Department of Public Health online. So this is the time where we ask that if anybody has any updates they'd like to share, any training events, any news that's relevant for emergency planning purposes, if you would share that information now. If you are in chat and you would like to speak, just take yourself off mute and announce your name and your agency. And we will start that now. Is there anyone in the National Guard online? Grady's asking. I don't think so.
Well, the reason they do have a fairly large full-scale exercise coming up, I think it's in April. I'm not. So they had one back in the fall that was playing off the hurricane, and the Alabama Emergency Management Hurricane Exercise, and it was a flood event, which we participated in. But they have another one coming up, which they're having a planning meeting in November. It'll be the third. Yeah, the Vigilant Guard. It'll be the third planning meeting, and it's surrounding, again, a weather event, some tornado event, as well as some flooding and where it hit. So I know they are very much trying to encourage everyone on their list to participate, and we'll be participating with it. And I was just going to give them a chance to mention that. But if you do see that come your way, they would say, please take advantage and respond to that and help them with that planning side of it. The last one they had was in Mobile at the NOAA building, or I'm sorry, the Emergency Management Agency building, and it was really just kind of laying the ground what each agency would do in the event of this disaster or response. So.
Yeah, this one will be November 7th through the 8th at the Mobile County.
Right. I think it's their third planning meeting.
And what was that for the November 7th through the 8th?
That was the National Guard Vigilant. Can't remember exactly what the term, the Vigilant Guard exercise for the full scale coming up in April.
Is there anyone in chat who'd like to say anything?
Y'all have y'all's winter weather exercise coming up.
Yeah. So this Thursday. We're doing it now in Clinton, and then Division F and Division E are both in divisional weather exercises. Division F, I know for a fact, is November 17th, it's a Friday. Division E's, I don't know the exact day, but I can get that to you and Beth and see how I can distribute it.
That'd be great.
And then just a reminder that AEMA will be beginning our renovation officially Monday following Thanksgiving. We will vacate the building for the contractors building and start putting it out.
Decided where your location's gonna be.
We will be, it's on a division by division basis. Some will be remote, as in at their homes. Others will be at different annexes that we get contracted or just been donated. I know from us field ops, we'll be working from home outside of like 1 or 2 days a week, or we'll be in Clinton with the color armor. I think admin
finance, some finance, and then, facilities like, vehicles and, maintenance stuff. They will be on site and claim that in separate building.
Are y'all going to share that?
We will, and I'll talk with Craig, our support director, and see when we can get that straight.
All right, so for those of you online who may not have heard, Caleb was just talking about how AEMA is going to have some renovations done on the building, and a lot of them will be working from home for part of the week. And
Or for the duration.
So it's minimum of 8 months, or
a minimum of 8 months.
could be up to 12 to 14, depending on specific equipment needs, but,
So this is an entire building, not just the EOC.
we believe it's the entire old side of the building. EOC, the old section above it.
Okay, and then someone in chat has raised their hand. They're labeled as CC. CC, you can have the floor now.
Oh, yes, ma'am. You just asked for updates. So I'm Kason Cohen. I'm with the Office of Radiation Control here under the umbrella of the Alabama Department of Public Health. The only thing I wanted to say is that we have a lot of people who are in new positions, and that includes myself. I was promoted last December. And so just to let everybody know that this group is new to me. So I'm interested in learning more and learning more from the group. And Mr. Williams, if you're still on the line, I'm about to send you an email about some of the things that you presented earlier in this session.
Yes, I'm still here.
Did anybody else from chat have anything else to add?
Hey Beth, this is Laura with Alabama EMA. I just wanted to talk about the renovations that Caleb was speaking on. Our COOP EOC site will be at Fort Taylor Harding in Montgomery.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Laura.
Does that conclude the roundtable? Anybody else got anything else before we move on? All right, hearing nothing, we will close the meeting. We do appreciate again everybody for showing up today, either in person or virtually. We know there was a lot going on this week with the different events we've already talked about, so we appreciate the time you took out of your day, and we appreciate everyone that came and talked to us and presented. So unless there's any other questions, we will sign off, and let me say this real quick. We do not have a date for the spring CERC meeting yet. We do have some people who have already requested to come and speak. One being Liz Liddell with PHMSA. She has a new program. She is, well, not necessarily a new program, but revitalizing that program she wants to come talk to us about. So once we have those dates and that agenda, we'll make sure everybody gets those in a timely manner. Of course, we're working with Caleb at AEMA to get that date nailed down. So thank you.